Welcome to A Walk in the Park with Animal Friends. This is our Halloween special, and we've got Sam and Nat from Joii.
Hello.
Hello. We will do very quick intros for those of you or those of our listeners that haven't met you before. Sam, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Patricia. So I am Sam Webster, and I'm the Director of Clinical Operations at Joii Pet Care, the one-stop pet care app that is making veterinary care and pet care more accessible and affordable for every pet parent in the UK. We do that through three main ways. So if you download our app, you'll have free access to our symptom checker, which can check everything from a spooky bug bite,
Love it.
To an upset tummy that your pet may have, and tell you what you need to do based on your pet's symptoms. We also have free access to our nursing clinics to help with everything from behaviour and training, where Nat comes in, to diet and grooming for your pet. And of course our 24/7 access to video consultations with the vet, which are completely free for all Animal Friends insurance policyholders.
Lovely. Thanks, Sam, and welcome back. And Nat, do you want to do a quick intro?
Yes, I will do a quick intro. Sam said all the great Joii stuff, so I won't do that again. But my name's Nat. I am a certificated clinical animal behaviourist and certificated in cats and dogs. And I kind of oversee the behaviour service for Joii, as well as working in my own consultancy. So hopefully I can help with some cat behaviour questions.
I know, which leads us lovely onto this Halloween episode, focusing just on cats. So I know we talk a lot about dogs, but actually we wanted an entire podcast episode just dedicated to cats and asking all of those cat questions. So let's kick off. National Black Cat Day has just passed, and it's all about celebrating the beauty and then helping to debunk the negative image around black cats. So to start us off on a fun, positive note, tell me who your favourite black TV cat is.
I love black cats. They get they're so underrated, and they get left in the shelters, bless them. My favourite cat has to be, and I hope there's some people listening who remember this, but Sabrina the Teenage Witch. The old version on TV.
Yes.
Not the new version on the Netflix or whatever.
Although I still like that, but I hear you on the cat.
Wasn't it? That's how I
Salem,
anyway.
the terrible puppet.
Salem.
With the little hinge jaw that used to tell all the little
and the really scary eyes. Yeah. I'm not sure that's debunking a myth, but I love that you love that.
It was the puppetry that was weird, not the fact that he was a black cat,
the
really.
Was wonderful, and I think that's what we need to focus on.
Love it. Yeah, good recovery there, Sam. What about you, Nat?
Haven't got a favourite TV black cat, but my favourite black cat is my cat, Spooky.
I love
my childhood cat. Well, yeah, I was like 10 when I named him, so
love it.
He was great. So if I can choose him, can I have a bit of artistic license there?
You absolutely can, Nat. As a guest, you definitely can. Yeah. Well, I had 2 black cats growing up, actually. They were half Siamese.
Oh, wow.
But the purebred Siamese got out with the tomcat, and then they ended up as black Siamese cats. So they had all these wonderful Siamese cat traits. Yeah. But they were black Siamese cats. Anyway, right. So do black cats have personality traits that other breeds of cats might not have? Nat, do you want to tackle that one?
Oh dear, that's a difficult question. That's a PhD thesis, really, isn't it?
Idea for the next one.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a study out there that looks at coat colour determining personality, but I would probably say that it would be mixed up more in the genetics and the temperament there, rather than the fact that, they know they're a sassy black cat.
Yeah.
So
they're individual, like everybody.
Yeah.
I think, does coat colour come into it? Probably not massively, but every cat is different. With different behaviour traits.
Yeah. So how many cats have we got in the UK roughly now? Do you know?
So the last PDSA pause report puts us at over 11 million cats in the UK.
11 million cats. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Crazy cats. That's what we like to hear.
Plenty of crazy cat ladies as well.
So how many recognised breeds of cats are there? Any idea?
I probably would not be up to date with that list. There are a lot of breeds, so many breeds, and it's growing all the time. But what I would say is 9 out of 10 of the cats that you see are domestic cats. So we tend to class them by their coat length. So they're known as domestic short hairs, domestic long hairs, domestic medium hair, depending on whether you count a middle coat length. But they are basically moggies. They are all mixed breeds. And they are all wonderful for that fact.
Love it. So I know we said we're going to focus on cats only, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the differences between cats and dogs. Like, are cats better at hunting, or can they survive without eating meat? And Sam, we talked about this on season 1 of the podcast. But Nat, do you want to talk about some of the main differences between cat and dogs? And then Sam, I think from a veterinary perspective, you pick up.
Yeah, sure. Again, individual personalities aside. So this is a sweeping generalisation. But I would say that the main differences between most pet cats and pet dogs are the kind of relationships they have with both their family and the environment. We have a lot more restrictions for our dogs. In general, cats have this kind of hidden life if they are outdoor cats. So they do get to go and spend time without us doing cat things, which dogs don't get the opportunity to do. Unless you've left the gate open. So, I think it's probably because of the way that we live with those two different species. Dogs are more sort of seen as by our side, whereas cats are maybe housemates.
I think the old adage is you own a dog, but a cat owns you. So true. Having made the switch from dog ownership to cat ownership, it's 100% true. I am his little slave. I do as you're told. And we were actually talking about this earlier, about how where we've arrested development of pets, dogs versus cats. So dogs are almost a perpetual child that look at us as someone to guide them through life. Whereas cats grow up into whole adult cats who almost see us as quite rubbish cats. That's why your cat might bring you home a half alive bird or frog or whatever they've caught. They're almost trying to teach you to cat properly, as opposed to a dog who looks at you and goes, "Tell me what to do, Mum."
For my entire childhood, I thought they were bringing me home presents rather than looking at me that I'm a rubbish cat. You would not believe what these cats brought home. They actually went and stole somebody's roast dinner joint. The whole leg of lamb. They managed, I don't know where they got it from, but can you imagine being that neighbour of ours going, "Love, did you get the meat out?" I put it on the side. Why? But it's not there. Well, I haven't moved it. Have you moved it? And you can just imagine that conversation.
I hope they looked up in time just to see your cat trotting off.
I hope so. Otherwise, it's a mystery to this day.
And I love that your cat moved beyond, here's a bird that I've caught, and you're a terrible cat, to here's how to roast something.
I'm actually going to bring you, like you've not eaten all the other things that I've left you. Maybe if I get you this, you might cook it and eat it.
So I think we describe cats as more of a force of nature necessarily than a pet that we keep. Touching on kind of the medical differences and the veterinary differences, I think you touched a key one there, Patricia, that dogs are omnivores. They eat everything. You can have a vegetarian dog if you want to, as long as they've got a balanced diet. They don't need meat. Cats have to eat meat. There are key proteins they cannot synthesize any other way, and we have not found a way to supplement them. So please avoid the vegan diets and the vegetarian diets. A good balanced cat food will have meat content in there.
Can I add one other change I've just thought of, which probably is why our relationships are so different with our dogs and cats, is that and it has my favourite word in, dogs are crepuscular.
Oh, I love that word.
So they're active at dawn and dusk, whereas cats are nocturnal, so are more likely to annoy us all through the night.
Yes, I also used to experience that. Although my cat used to come to bed with me and then pretend to sleep on my bed. Then he'd go and find my mum, and then he'd stay with her. And then he'd come back in the morning when she got up earlier than me. And if I didn't get out of bed when my alarm went off, he would knock something off my shelf onto my head. Like he knew she's not got up the alarm, poof, off it goes.
Did it work?
It did, because you'd wake up being like rubbing your head, going, crikey. Yeah, the cats are amazing, and I'm a little bit of a fact geek. So, what's your best cat fact that you can share with me?
Oh, I have a really interesting one. Now, I can't claim this is mine. I got this from Radio 2.
Okay.
But the purr of a cat has healing properties.
No.
Yes, cats purr by vibrating the vocal cords in the throat. And the frequency at which that vibrates is actually found to make our bone density better. So that's pretty cool. They can self-heal. If they have got a mild, small stress fracture, they can actually heal themselves if we don't notice that.
That's insane.
It gets better, Patricia, because actually using that technology, NASA now replicates with machines that vibration for astronauts in space and uses it so that when they're in space, they don't lose bone density. Cats
that has literally just blown my mind. Amazing. Because obviously the whole gravity piece for astronauts is a problem, and bone density and wasted.
Hours and hours a day exercising to keep their muscle mass and their bone density. And actually one of the things they do is they vibrate their bones at the frequency of purr. So cats sent us to the moon. That is
a fact that I'm going to use all over the place. So thanks for sharing that, Sam.
Since I've learned it, you're welcome.
Nat, do you feel like you wanted to have gone first now?
No, I'm not going. I knew that was coming, and I'm just, nothing is better than that. So cats are cute. There you go. That's my fact.
Oh, okay. So, Sam, from a vet perspective and a health perspective, what are the most common conditions that you will typically see for cats?
Yeah, of course. So some of the conditions we see for cats are common across all pets, cats and dogs. So upset stomachs, viral conditions like that. They also get colds, coughs and sneezes. Again, often viral, very similar to kind of kennel cough. It's not the same thing. It's not as infectious, but they can get kind of cat flu symptoms. And we do vaccinate against the worst of those.
Yeah.
But also, cats have this amazing way of dealing with stress. They physically deal with stress. And if you're a cat owner, at some point in your life, you've probably had a cat that's got a bladder problem. It's struggling to go to the toilet. They toilet around the house. They don't, in the worst cases, male cats in particular, who are really stressed out, can get what's called a blocked bladder, where it fills up, but it can't empty. And that's a real emergency. You need to see your vet as urgently as you can if that happens. But they physically deal with their stress, and often it results in bladder problems. So we have a syndrome called feline lower urinary tract disease that is basically stress-induced. One. As they get older, they can be prone to conditions such as arthritis, which actually 80% of cats over 8 years old will have arthritis. We just don't know about it. They're very good at hiding it.
Yeah.
And also...
So on that, how do you detect pain in a cat?
It's really subtle.
Yeah.
And actually, we are at Joii in the middle of trying to build a model using AI that will allow you to take a picture of your cat's face and tell if it's in pain.
Okay.
We're doing really well. And that's by looking at 5 different things in pictures of cats that we've got.
Yep.
So it's where their whiskers are lying. It's how open their eyes are. It's the position of their ears. It's the position of their head. And it's whether they're kind of scrunching up their muzzle or it's nice and relaxed. So it is quite subtle. It's all about tension. And it's really easy to not notice. They're not like dogs. They don't, whimper and limp if their feet are sore. They'll actually just grin and bear it. And you'd be amazed actually when you find that problem and you fix it, that they'll go back to acting like a little kitten.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thank you. And then, Nat, from a behaviour perspective, what are some of the key things that you deal with from a cat perspective?
Yeah, so cats, I see them through the Joii app as well. So I'd say 25% of my calls are cats, 75 dogs. And I think because of the nature of our relationship with cats, and maybe I'm generalising too much here, but it tends to be when there is something obvious that's happened that owners will reach out for help with their cats. So they're peeing in places that they don't want them to pee. They're pooing in places they don't want them to pee. They are having, noisy nighttime scraps with other neighbouring cats. There's loads that owners can do to increase the welfare of their cats, and I think particularly when cats are outdoors, there's lots going on that isn't seen.
Yeah.
And it's maybe only when those problems arise that people start to take it seriously. So the majority of cases that I see are classed as inappropriate toileting.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're missing their toilet tray, if they are litter tray trained, or they've started going in the house when they used to go outside.
Yeah.
And most of those, as Sam said, is stress, pain, change of environment, simple things like a new cat's moved in next door.
Okay.
Simple things like I had one client where they changed all of their kitchen appliances, like the kettle. They bought nice, fancy new chrome kettle,
Shiny.
toaster, other things, and the cat was just marking up them constantly.
Look at it.
Nobody wants that in their kettle or toaster. No.
Cat was worried that there was another cat in the kitchen. So, inappropriate toileting, which is about emptying the bladder or the intestine, and then marking, which is about safety and territory, really. And they're the main things, really.
Yeah.
I do see a few cases of aggression towards people. Most of those, however, are redirected aggression and frustration when there is something else external affecting their ability to cope. So, for example, one case I had, lovely big open plan kitchen with loads of glass, new cat moved in next door, cat can see through the glass but can't get to them, started attacking the owner because I can't get to what I want to do, I need to do something, I'm going to attack you.
Yeah, so I'll take it out on you.
Yeah.
So Sam, from an in-practice perspective, how challenging is it working with cats in practice face-to-face?
Very, in a word.
Do you have to go in like a big suit?
I have had cats in the past where the owners arrive with their ski gloves because they already know their cat is what we call a spicy meatball.
Spicy meatball, I love that.
But if you think about it, like as a cat, you've had cats in the past. I own a cat now. Think about even getting them to the vet. You bring out this box, which they only think of as the cat crate. It's a portal to the place they never want to go. You can't get them in. And then you get them to the vets and you can't get them out. So the first challenge is actually examining your patient. It's then a case of, we've talked about dog behaviour on previous podcasts and how they give you warning signs and work up. Cats sometimes do that. They don't always. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nat, but often there is a subspecies of cat that just goes with a switch. So
they go 0 to spicy meatball in a second.
And, I know we've talked about how subtle dog body language can be, but cats are even more so. So it's literally a blink and you miss it.
Exactly.
If they bother.
Exactly. And sometimes the challenge is, particularly for new cats you've never handled before, is what are my key priorities before that switch flips? So, for example, the first time I've seen a cat for a vaccine, I will probably listen to its heart, which is the key thing. I can't do any other way than handling that pet. Give it its vaccine if the history is all right with the owner, and then I will proceed to do the rest of my physical exam from head to tail, so that when they tell me enough is enough and this game is over, I'm going back in my crate, I've done the key things. The pet owner, if I start checking their teeth and messing around with their legs and I can't do that vaccine, that health will suffer. In the worst cases, and actually this was with one of my colleagues' cats, so you'd hope it would go better, but actually that's always the worst. Pets are the worst. I must have caught her on a bad day, bless her. The cat, not the owner. She was on holiday actually, and her cat had come in from the cattery with a wound, where I think it hadn't been very happy being in the cattery and was trying to escape.
Right.
And we opened the box and a switch flipped, and that cat started doing laps of the walls, trying to climb the ceiling. There were about 3 of us in that room trying to catch her, bless her, and all we wanted to do, I'm pretty sure she had fleas or a little scrape or something like that. It didn't even need to bother her really. Just get her to sit still for 2 minutes. So they can be quite expressive in how they feel about being handled at vet practice.
I remember coming home from school one day and my dad had been spending probably near on an hour trying to get both cats into one basket. But every time he got one in and then caught the other one to put it in, the other one would jump out. So I've walked in at the pinnacle moment where he's like, I just can't do this. I was like, well, first off, Dad, close one door, right, so that you've got a smaller space to contain them. Like, come on, you've just been running around like a loon for 60 minutes. And and then I was like, secondly, we've got another cat box. So just do them separately. What are you doing?
Your cats.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the great things about Joii is that cats don't behave normally at the vets. They really don't. They sit in a corner and they hide if they're not telling us off for being spicy with us. So the ability for us to see them in their home environment acting normally, it's massive. It's brilliant. So take, for example, that cat with a scratch, a skin problem. One picture, one quick video call, we're likely to see more on that than we ever are with that cat trying to climb the walls in practice. And it's safer for everybody involved. So I would definitely encourage cat owners to use Joii where they can. We can save so much stress for you and your pet.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Remember, they're predator and prey. So they have those tendencies of, they can be feisty if they want to. They have that in their behavioural repertoire. But also they've got that kind of flight response, which is what you saw with your flying cat.
Yeah, quite literally. Flying cat.
Yeah.
So Nat, you said that there was around 25% of the cases that you see are cats. And I know that we've talked previously about the time that it takes for behavioural problems, but I'm assuming again for cats to help with behavioural concerns, it's going to take time, right? There's no quick fixes.
Yeah, there's no quick fixes if it is purely behavioural. And this is the wonder of working with Joii and the clinical team there, because I get to work so closely with the referring vets, and I can literally go, hey guys, I'm seeing a UTI, and we can then help a lot more quickly, and we can refer between the team. If the behaviour is the only symptom of what is fundamentally a physiological issue, then you're going to have a quick response. If that cat has started missing their litter tray because they had a UTI, and when they went to urinate it was painful, and now they've associated that with the litter tray, we need to solve the pain issue before we can then start reintroducing a litter tray. And cats, there are some really simple wins with cats as well, and hand in hand with that there are some very simple things that people can do sort of wrong and end up with an issue. Cats can be very particular with the litter substrate that they like, for example. So if you see one on offer and you buy 10 bags of it, and then you use it and you wonder why your cat is now pooing in the hallway, there's your answer.
They just don't like what you've bought.
And I think that can be a great kind of quick win sometimes, but because of the external factors like other neighbouring cats, and because of the way that outdoor cats do roam around and we don't have control over that environment, it can actually be really tricky. And there's a limited amount that I can do as a behaviourist, because if your neighbour is feeding the local tomcat and they've managed to learn how to break into your cat flap, what can we do, really? That's all out of our hands and out of our control. So.
My mother-in-law had that same issue, that the local tomcat breaks in through the cat flap but has taken to toileting in her handbag, which is not great. That's for grim. I mean, that's not a welcome house visitor, right? Who does that?
No, I wouldn't invite them back.
Definitely cats. Anyway, so is it a perception? Are cats more independent than dogs?
I don't know whether I would call them as a whole, as a species. They live more of an independent life because of the legal restrictions and the societal norms that we have compared to dogs. I think I've met lots of cats that are very bonded to their owners and would be with them all the time. I've met some dogs that would happily jump the fence and disappear all day. So it really does depend. But I think, what's acceptable in society is maybe a more independent lifestyle than dogs. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, automatically we kind of want to say, yes, cats historically they go out and do their thing. But then, like you say, it's very individual. My cat will... If I go out for a walk with my son or take him out on his bike, the cat will kind of follow behind, like, I'm not with you, but also, where are you going? I want to be with you. So there's such a spectrum. Some of them are really close. Some people walk their cats. And
and that was the thing. I've seen a trend. There's a lady in our team, she walks her cat on a lead and takes them both out for walks, is train them to get used to the harness, and they enjoy going out and having that interaction. But is that something that you can, I'm assuming, I've seen it, you can train for it?
It is something you can train, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think, again, individuality. We do have to remember that cats aren't small dogs. They do have a whole different ethology and different motivations. So it's going to take a different kind of cat. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be blanket putting all cats on harnesses and walking them. I would be worried about the flight response and safety, all sorts of things. But if you're introducing it right, if the cat's up for it.
And it comes down to knowing your pet, right? And understanding what they will and won't do. Because I'm pretty sure if I tried to walk one of our Siamese cats, I would have ended up worse for wear. But again, he used to follow me everywhere, but he'd wait at the end of the road for me to come home from school. But he'd be there every day at the right time, just waiting.
They have an amazing sense of time, and they're very loyal. Just worth noting that if you are walking your cat on a harness, the world of walking pets is generally designed for dogs. So just be careful who you come across and how your pet and those dogs react. Because not only might a cat not like being put on a harness, they might not like who they meet out. You might be getting dragged down the block as you try and run away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Sky, as soon as she sees a cat, she's straight away. I don't know what she's got against cats, but she's just like, no, I don't like them. I think because they come and tease her on the top of the fence and just sit around the garden.
Well, a cat's world is vertical, not horizontal, isn't it? And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I speak to a lot of my clients about, is explaining to them, okay, well, let's have a look around your house. Where can they go that's safe? You know,
how high can they get?
Yeah, exactly. And usually they're saying, oh, well, I love this space on top of the wardrobe. I'm doing that because they're taking me around their house on the phone, which again is a great
joy of joy.
Exactly, the joy of joy. And they want the cat to settle in the lounge, for example, but the bed is on the floor, where they might feel unsafe. So again, there's those simple wins. Okay, move that plant off that shelf. Let's see whether they like it up there. So that's what I mean about knowing the difference between cats and dogs, and then adding in those individual quirks of your cat's personality and what they need.
And we talked about detecting pain through AI and what Joii are doing there. But what are the key signs from a behaviour perspective are you really looking for to then see if a cat is stressed or anxious? Does it mirror what Sam was talking about earlier?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can use that kind of grimace scale, which is how we describe all of those. Yeah, exactly that. And I think any of us would be able to look at a cat, if we found a cat out and about and go, whew, he's been in the wars, because you can just tell. And any obvious physical issues are going to be quite easy to pick up. But from a behavioural point of view, because they show their stress through those kind of physiological issues, I'd be looking at a change in toileting issues, drinking too much or not enough, going off their foods if they previously were foodie, all those normal kind of health signs, I would really keep an eye on. And environmental changes. So a lot of the time I'm asking my clients to go and knock on the neighbours. Have you just got a new cat? Have you been looking after a cat?
Yeah.
Is there a new smell or something that they can sense in the garden that's made them not want to go outside again?
Yeah.
You know, is there an element of frustration? Have you recently decorated? Because a cat's world is very much about olfaction as well.
Yeah.
And so things that we may not think about, like, oh, I've done up the lounge.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the cat's marking everywhere. That
like, this
could
is too
be a
new for me.
coincidence that another cat's moved in next door, but it could be that you've covered up all of the lovely scent that they have got used to and makes them feel safe by painting over it.
Okay, lovely. And then we've talked about cats' behaviour and how they own us rather than we own them, but they can go from mild to spicy in like a millisecond. Is that a sign that they're unhappy, or are they just that diva-like?
I wouldn't say they would diva-like, although some cat owners listening might disagree. The concept of being naughty or a diva kind of requires for that animal to have a theory of mind, which means they need to know how that makes you feel. Because in order to upset someone on purpose, you need to be aware that they also have consciousness. And, the jury is out at the moment about whether our companion animals have that. It's a really interesting field of research. And it's very unlikely that our dogs and cats would do things to spite us, even though it feels like it sometimes. It's usually just a reinforced behaviour that gets them what they want ultimately. Like your cat wanted you to get up, so they knock a glass of water on your head. It works. So if my cat was going from 0 to 60, I would probably be doing all of those behaviour and health checks. And I would I'm a real advocate of filming yourself with your cat or your dog, because you will pick up on things that you can't see. So one of my friend's cats that I look after quite often, he is a lap cat. He loves being on your lap. He doesn't like being touched. He wants the closeness.
So it's on his terms.
He wants the closeness and companionship of being with me. But he doesn't enjoy the feeling of stroking. That's a very human-centric thing. And why should him seeking out an interaction with me be contingent on me being able to stroke him? It's a very subconscious thing that we do, naturally. Maybe 007 has a blame there to take. But I think, if your cat is reacting that way, it might be that they're doing subtle things that you haven't seen, or it might be that they just they want the interaction, but not in the way that you are doing it.
And that's a great tip to film it, because then you can understand also as well, if it's a particular way that you're doing or touching a particular area of the body, then it can help you identify some of those trends and patterns, right?
Exactly. If it's pain, I might look at some footage as well and say, do you know what, that's actually play. That's because if people have used their hands to play, it's very cute when they're a kitten. And then suddenly that cat gets bigger, and when they're grappling, they're here and here, and everything's a bit more painful. And that's when it becomes inappropriate for you. But it's the same play as far as
that's what they've grown up with. So Sam, you touched with your fascinating fact earlier around purring, but why do cats meow and purr? Is that communication, or do they communicate in other ways?
I'm going to leave this one with you.
Okay.
If you'd like to start.
Nicely handed over.
Sure, So I think both cats and dogs have a range of vocalisations. And most of them are because we are too stupid to notice their body language. Because we are all about speech and language. So they're the things we tend to notice more when our cats are vocalising. So the vocalisations I would worry about would be that kind of yowling. That's the pain. That's not a noise that you want to hear from your little cat. And yowling can also happen if your male cat is entire. and there are girlies around.
Okay.
Yeah, very vocal.
So yeah, please don't panic if your cat is yowling. If they're completely healthy but entire, they may
It happens
just
both ways, not just the boys. The
Yeah,
girls can be
just
very
have urges.
and,
Yeah.
it can be quite shocking if you're not used to it. So
Yeah.
you get a lot of calls saying, my lady is making a lot of noise. Why
Yeah.
is she doing that?
Okay.
She's telling the boys she's around.
yeah.
Oh, so she's just literally catcalling, like, "Wee,
Yeah.
That's exactly
I'm
where
ready."
it came from.
Fabulous! You learn something new every day.
Other vocalizations, meowing tends to be like, the meow tends to be more of a social facilitation towards humans.
Yeah, feed me, pet me.
Yeah. Where are you?
Yeah,
Bored, tired, you're asleep. All those things. And then there are some other behaviours, maybe not vocalisations, but I just want to talk about phlegm and response, if that's okay, because it's such an interesting thing to look at. And dogs do it too. So if you ever see your cat sniffing around and then they have an open mouth and they're kind of almost vibrating their mouth a little bit, it's because they've got an extra organ, both cats and dogs, and they are moving air over that organ to get more scent. So it's fascinating. It's usually kind of a predatory or a sexual thing.
Yeah.
So it'll be on the scent of another cat's urine or something like that. But really interesting to look at. And when you look at big cats, so lions, tigers, it's so obvious because they're huge.
Yeah.
So have a look for phlegm and response.
That is interesting, really interesting, because I wouldn't have, obviously when I'm walking Sky, I've seen her do that just on the odd occasion, and I'm like, oh, what is she doing? But
usually a bit of drooling as well, and kind of, it's just like a weird. Yeah. If you didn't know what it was, you might worry about it a little bit, like that's strange. But phlegm and response.
As I said, you learn something new every day. So, just bring us back to the behaviour side. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, obviously we know when a cat's getting a little bit spicy, but what are the typical things that cats will do to show you love? Obviously my whole memories have been shattered because I thought they were bringing me presents, but there are other ways. How else do they show love?
Oh, in so many ways, right? In their closeness, which may be allowing you to pet them. It might be insisting on sitting on you. Sometimes it's in a good situation. You sat on the sofa, they come and have a chill. Other times it's highly inappropriate. Whenever I try and do a workout, my cat likes to sit on me. In one way it helps me avoid exercise, so I can't be too sad. They are I think even the fact that they've bothered. So cats don't meow at each other. They've taught themselves to meow at us because we don't hear
them. They don't meow at each other. That's only at us.
Not really.
There was a really interesting study that it was only a small thing they did on a BBC documentary, and they asked all the owners to listen to lots of different meows, and they could all pick out their meows from their cat because they're all individual about the way that's worked to get their human to do things.
So they genuinely have conversations with us.
Yeah.
As mad as you might feel talking to your meowing cat, in a way they are talking back. I think the biggest one though is they give you big slow blinks. So we've talked about cats being kind of high kind of predator prey drive animals. Yeah. Closing their eyes is a massive sign of trust. Yeah. Because they are used to being open and alert and looking for potential risks to themselves. So them giving you making eye contact and then a big slow blink where they keep their eyes closed for even a split second or a second is, I trust you, I feel comfortable with you. And actually you'll find that you can do that back to them. Yeah. And they take that as an extra sign of trust. Turning their back on you as well, that's a massive trust thing as well. It might seem so little, but to sit down showing you their bum, which they do a lot, let's be fair.
Yeah, especially if you're on a Teams or a Zoom call. The amount of cats' bums that we've seen on camera is phenomenal.
They're telling everybody, I'm comfortable enough to turn my back on you, which from them is a positive thing, maybe not so much for everyone on that Zoom call.
Yeah.
Is there anything I've missed there, Natalie?
No, I love the slow blink. I think,
favourite.
I try and do that to every cat that I meet on my walks. I taught my little niece to do it as well, and she's so cute.
Good point, actually. We have we've just moved house, but where we used to live, there was 2 or 3 cats that spent their whole time living on, they all had a patch of street. They
Yeah.
had a different patch. They had their own patch. And one of them, if you slow blinked, he wouldn't. He would just stare at you. He clearly was wary, and if you went
Yeah.
too close, he'd bolt. But you could see he was ready to stand his ground.
Yep.
The next cat along, slow blink at her, she'd come running for attention. And yeah, it really can give you a lot of information about a cat's personality and their state of mind. Just
Yeah.
something as simple as blinking.
Just understand. And I love the way that you can communicate in that way with them. It's like your own secret code that all of the cat lovers out there are going to be able to use. I love that. So some other behaviours. Why do cats scratch so much?
Scent again. So we've got scent glands
Yep.
in their pads in here and on their mouth. So when you see them rubbing against things,
Yep.
like your leg, it's more about a safety, or sort of saying, I like you enough to be part of what I'm part of, or you smell a bit weird, I'm just going to cover you in my scent before
Yep.
I say hi. And that was me talking as a cat, by the way. That wasn't anything that I do.
Yeah, you're not in any danger there, Sam.
Doing your own style.
And yeah, so scratching is one, they're getting ready to hunt, so
Yep.
they need to keep their claws nice and trim and
Yep.
sharp. But two, it's leaving those kind of scent marks and having a territory that they feel safe in. So that's why the marking is so important, to look at stress-related factors, because if a cat isn't allowed to scratch or rub to kind of make their area safe,
Yeah.
then they might then resort to urine marking.
Yeah. So one myth, maybe, that I'd like to bust, potentially, I don't know, you're the experts, you're going to have to tell me. Cats and water, do they really hate it? Do some love it? Is it just down to individuals and their preferences?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've seen cats that join their owners in the bath. I've seen cats that learn how to...
Hopefully not on a Joy video call.
No.
Thankfully,
Yeah, it's in the terms and conditions. You have to be fully clothed to phone Joy. I've known cats that have learnt to turn the tap on to get themselves a drink.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that maybe people might not be aware of is because we tend to have these kind of zones for our pets' stuff, and cats really don't like having water and food next to each other, because if you think of that as an evolutionary thing, you wouldn't eat something that was next to a stream because the water may not be clean, etc., etc. So having extra resources around and maybe moving your water bowl around, if your cat isn't drinking, or they're not liking the position that they're eating in, and also making sure that they are on a vertical space, so they're a bit higher up and they feel safe, because a bit like the slow blink, when you're eating or you're going to the loo, you're also in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
So you have to feel safe, because you can't then run away if you, or as easily run away. I don't know about water. I'm just
very mixed bag. I know cats, and I've worked with cats that go stand-up paddleboarding and go in canoe.
No.
So some of them must be. I know two cats. Actually, one of our vets at Joii, she does remote consults from her yacht, where she lives with her partner, and cats and dogs. So they're obviously comfortable on the water.
Yeah.
To be in a situation where they were overboard. I think traditionally the idea of a cat with water, we think of like a bath situation, but cats don't bathe in water. They self-groom and they dust bath. So in that instance, most cats probably wouldn't choose to take a dunk and wouldn't be a big fan if you plop them in a bath. But they're also fascinated by water. You mentioned taps. Mine will get in any sink, any puddle, anywhere that's not a water bowl. Wants to be in and playing with it. And I think that's pretty common with a lot of cats. They are fascinated by it.
Love that. So still on the behaviour, the whole kneading. Why do they do that?
some dogs would do that too.
Yep.
Not as much, maybe as cats.
Yep.
But again, a bit of scent going, but it's mainly a hang up from drinking their mother's milk. So it's when they were stimulating the milk release
no way.
on a nipple. So yeah, you'll see it in most species, to be honest. Most mammals, they'll be feeding, suckling, because you do need to do something to get it all going. So that they will then retain that kind of characteristic and do that as a kind of self-soothe activity. I always explain it as, you suck your thumb, or you have a dummy as a kid, or you might rub your nose. They're all mimicking breastfeeding in some kind of way. So it's the cat version of that, really.
Oh, amazing. So kicking out litter tray. So after I'm going to spread litter everywhere. Or Sky does it when she goes to toilet out in the woods. She'll kick after having a wee. Why do they do that?
I think there's two different reasons there. So for dogs, it's more about scent, I was here. Some of that with cats, but in a litter tray scenario, it's usually the fact that our litter trays aren't particularly well designed for cats. So maybe try a higher sided one. Cats will want to disguise their scent, so they'll dig it with their front paws mainly to cover over what they've just done.
Bury it,
bury it, and they might, knock it over. Whereas dogs are more, I was here. So she, Sky. There's my poo, and here's some more for good luck, with her back feet. So it's usually a slightly different behaviour.
Okay, very interesting. So Sam, coming back to you about caring for our cats. So when it comes to caring for them, what would be your recommendations for spaying and neutering cats?
Definitely get it done. That is my number one thing. There is a lot going on about the timing of neutering and whether you should for dogs. For dogs at the moment, for cats it's a blanket. If you do not want to litter, get them neutered, because they will find a way. And as we've already discussed, they're quite vocal about letting people know when they're ready to have those days.
I will find you.
Particularly, you want to wait till they're old enough to be able to have grown a little bit and to be able to deal with the anaesthetic. So a rough benchmark is around the 6 month mark that we generally recommend. However, you need to be keeping them indoors. Quite strictly indoors before that happens, because it will only take one slip up with the local boy or girl that's out and about, and you will have yourself a litter. So particularly pertinent if you've got boys and girls at home, litter mates, and they're both intact, at which point we generally recommend getting the little boy done a little bit earlier, purely because, not because I'm picking on him because he's a boy, but because the surgery is a lot quicker and less likely to have complications than the female surgery, which is a little bit more involved. Talk to your vet about the perfect timing for you and your pets, but do get them done by 6 months at the latest.
And interesting, because you say 6 months there. I would expect cat sexual maturity to be a bit later than that, but if they are active before that,
they can be earlier.
Is that how people get caught out?
About 4 or 5 months they can start to be sexually active. They grow actually and mature at a massive rate. You don't realise, I suppose, until you're in that situation and suddenly you're a grandma to a litter of kittens.
And is there any side effects of spaying or neutering too early?
They can. It's more noticeable in dogs than cats. I don't think there's any massive studies suggesting there are problems. What we do know is there may potentially be problems with urinary incontinence and urine flow as they get older. Obviously, there's risks associated with the surgery itself. It is an anaesthetic, and just because it's routine and we do it on a regular basis doesn't mean it doesn't have risks with it. Things like post-operative infections and reacting heavily to the anaesthetics, and you can get lumps and suture reactions at the site that the operation's been done. But what I would say is that the benefits far outweigh the risks.
And some of those benefits from a cat's perspective, can it help reduce the chance of cancer in females later on?
Very similar to dogs. So for the males, you can't have testicular cancers or problems or any disease if you don't have your testicles. Sorry, boys that are listening. There's a lot of sympathy.
There's going to be a lot of wincing at that comment, I'm sure.
For females, so pyometras can happen in cats, which is an infection in the uterus. In fact, at our practice at Joii London Colney, we had a 1-year-old cat, female entire cat, who had a pyometra. Now that's really rare, but it can happen. They're usually infections you see with older dogs who've had a lot of seasons and their hormones start to just get out of balance. So you remove the uterus, you can't have those problems. But it also helps with kind of ovarian problems and with other hormone related cancers, particularly things like mammary tumours.
Yeah. So coming back to the kind of indoor-outdoor cat debate.
The Great Divide.
Yeah, so obviously some people let their cats roam free whilst others keep them indoors. Is it okay for a cat to be indoors for its entire life?
It's okay for your cat to do whatever best suits you and your cat.
Yeah.
I think historically most cats have been let out, and then as we've changed the way we live, particularly kind of apartment living in high-rise buildings, more cats are coming indoors, maybe with a balcony, or they call them catios, kind of an enclosed cat outdoor area, or they get walked on their lead and harness.
Yep.
And it just has to work for you and your pet.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day. Everybody's different.
Yeah, I've seen some amazing enclosed cat spaces that people have created for that enrichment side, but then keeping them safe. So if they are going outdoors, how important do you think microchipping is, as an example? Because we know in June 24 the legislation is changing, cats also need to be microchipped. Why wait is my kind of question.
Why wait indeed? Why are there cats out there without a microchip now? Because let's face it, they like to roam and they can go hundreds of miles.
Yeah.
That could just be they're off on a mission, they've got something in their head, they're following a scent. We also know, and I know from personal experience, cats are really good at getting in vans, delivery vans.
Yeah.
I've found them hundreds of miles from where they should be, and that's when they're registered with their microchip and you can contact their owner. For those that we can't, we scan them and there's no chip, who knows where they've come from.
So there's no hope of then really reuniting them with their owners?
No, if they've done something like that, if they've got in the back of the Amazon delivery van or whatever it is, chances are you're never going to reunite them. No amount of local posters will work. So it's so imperative, particularly for cats. And I'm so glad the law is coming in and this is now a legal mandatory thing for all cats to be microchipped, because the backup plan, I suppose, for a dog is always contact details on a collar or a harness. Cats don't keep that on. Cat owners will know that is a trick in itself. So that microchip really is so important to get them home to you.
No, absolutely, and I couldn't agree more, Sam. And from a microchip perspective, from the actual procedure, that's relatively straightforward to be able to do that, right?
It is. I won't lie, it is a fairly decent sized needle. So a microchip is about the size, a little microchip, tiny electronic device about the size of a grain of rice.
Yep.
But that does have to be injected under the skin of the neck of a cat. And it's a bit of a bigger needle than, say, a vaccine or an injection if they need pain relief. It looks scary, and vets don't love doing it, let's be honest, because we feel mean. Occasionally they'll feel a little pinch and they'll give a little ow in the consult.
Yeah.
But do it at that point. Or if you are keeping your pet in religiously, your cat in, until you've had them neutered, get it done while they're under their anaesthetic for their surgery.
Oh, great tip.
They won't feel it, but you know that the minute they wake up and they've recovered and they're going out and about, they can come home to you.
They're just covered. Yeah, no, absolutely. So still on that indoor-outdoor debate, should cats wear collars indoors? So from a dog perspective, obviously I can't own a cat, or they can't own me because I'm allergic. But indoors, I take Sky's collar off because I've heard horror stories about them getting caught and strangled in them. Is it the same for cats?
I would argue that there's not necessarily much point putting a collar on any cat, indoor or outdoor. They will find a way to take it off.
Yeah.
You talk about horror stories about getting them themselves tangled or, heaven forbid, strangled.
Yeah.
Most cat collars these days are quick release. So
okay.
If that did happen to a cat, if they're stuck in a bush or a tree or on a fence, it will rip away. I can't tell you how much money I spent in the first 6 months of Smarty's life trying to get a collar to stay on him.
Oh, no.
I must have donated about 20 to the local area.
Yeah.
I just gave up at that point.
Just kept disappearing.
Yeah. For an indoor cat, if they're microchipped, there's absolutely no reason you should need one.
Yep.
For an outdoor cat, the argument is, particularly if you've got a little bell on there, the wildlife is being warned that they're coming. But what I can tell
just
you...
a little heads up,
Exactly. Maybe if you don't want to, the local bird population to be decimated or anything like that. What I will say is cats will find a way around that.
Yep.
Personal experience, my cat figured out how to stalk birds across our decking without letting the bell go off. So they're very
Now that's
resourceful.
smart.
He is. His name is Smarty.
There you go.
He lives up to that. It can cause them a lot of stress to need to find ways around this. So there is a debate, I suppose, the psychological stress of being a noisy animal when actually they're quite stealthy by nature,
Yeah.
and us trying to, change their nature, stop them doing natural behaviour like hunting. So
Yeah.
if they're chipped, there's not really a reason to have a collar on.
Great. So then, would you see then less medical incidents for an indoor cat to an outdoor cat?
I wouldn't say less or more. I'd
Yeah.
say different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key differences?
Some of the key differences. We see more fights and bites
Yep.
for outdoor cats. So speaking about those cats, the neighbour's got a new cat, they have to figure out their territory.
Yeah.
That's when you get scratches and bite wounds. And if you don't notice them early, they tend to get pretty mucky and swollen into big swollen abscesses.
Yeah, because there's not
Cats
great
mouth
stuff
at
on
yeah.
cats' teeth, right?
They're disgusting. So yeah, that happens more in outdoors. Not saying indoor cats don't scrap with each other if you've got more than one, but they
Yep.
tend to have figured out their kind of status quo and which bit of the house belongs to who.
Yeah.
It's less likely to change and be as volatile. I do think we see more indoor cats with stress-related bladder problems,
Okay.
because often, and I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, Nat, but because there is less, outlet for them to go and explore their natural behaviour, do the things that we don't even know cats are doing, unless you're a really kind of on-it owner who has structured play and toileting and that vertical knowledge of, they need higher places, they need this, it's really easy for them to spiral into stress.
Yeah.
I've seen some fantastic indoor environments where the owners are really on it.
Yeah.
But you get the wrong cat in that environment, it's still
Yeah.
not going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So you
know,
can
so it
essentially
really is-
have the Disneyland for cats, but if the cat wants to just be outdoors,
It's not outdoors,
you're
is
not
it?
going to be able to change that.
You
Yeah.
can't change their nature.
And everything we're trying to do when we're trying to meet their needs in an indoor environment is mimicking what they would be doing outside naturally.
Yeah.
And, when you look at the territory studies where they've GPS'd cats,
Yeah.
pretty vast.
Yeah.
Their roaming space that they'll go on. So, unless you're in a mahoosive house, it's not necessarily going to cut it.
Yeah.
Having said that, I have worked with some cats that absolutely love their indoor life. My Spooky, for example,
Yeah.
he would have very happily been an indoor cat. In fact, a bed cat. The individualisation comes into it, but I would be very careful about
Yeah.
indoor environments.
Yeah. But even if you've got an outdoor cat and they're in, enrichment is going to be key.
Oh, gosh.
So what are some of the best enrichment that you've seen for cats?
Some of the best enrichment I've seen for cats are, those IKEA big block square shelves,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get the things that go in them, cutting holes out of those. So they had really high places to go.
Little hidey holes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have seen a client that, so as their stairs went up, they had all this space above the stairs that was just dead space. So they put a big shelf in and steps up to it, and that was their cat's mezzanine area. Playing with toys, like Sam said, little flirt type toys, teaching them to do funny little tricks, find things, go on treasure map, hide food around and go hunting for it. Anything that floats your cat's boat, really. I think if you, especially for indoor cats, but maybe for outdoor cats that do like to bring you presents and are, at the detriment of the local wildlife population, novel scents.
Yeah.
So again, just getting, when you go somewhere new, have a piece of cloth that you take and you can rub the scent on and then bring it home to them. So they're kind of having a little
what's
safari.
that?
Well,
Yeah.
like how if we went out for the day, I'd take pictures and then you get home and you show your family.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that, but for scent.
Yeah. No, I love that. And then, for a dog or a cat, for their sense of smell, I close my eyes and I can remember what the beach smells like, or fresh cut grass and stuff like that. Imagine that a million times for them with something new coming in.
Yeah.
So, Just moving on to kind of viruses and illnesses, Sam, from a veterinary perspective for cats. FLV or FIV, can you tell our listeners what is it? How is it transmitted? Can a cat live a happy and healthy life with this?
So there's two different viruses there. FELV, which is feline leukemia virus, and FIV, which is feline immunodeficiency virus. Said that slowly, got that right, that's good. They're both viruses that are transmitted by cat bites, by saliva, by contamination cat to cat. And when the cat has got them, it won't often make a difference itself to start with, but they're lifelong viruses without a cure. And what they do is they reduce the cat's immune system and make them really susceptible to other illnesses. FIV has a similar name to HIV in humans for a reason. It's one of those things where the immune system is shot, and there's the other things that happen on top of that cause the problems. There's no cure, as I've said. FELV does have a vaccine. Now, it may not be your pet's core vaccine that they get every year. The main ones we vaccinate for are flu and enteritis in cats, but I would ask your vet about it next time you go in. It's getting more popular and more vets are kind of making it as a routine in their practice. FIV doesn't. It doesn't. It does have some antivirals that can help, but often with FIV, your cat will be asymptomatic for years. They will have no problem, and then they will get to a point where that virus decides to activate, and from that point on, it's a slippery slope to try and keep them well. Can cats live with them? Yes. But what I would say is we've just said that transmission is cat to cat. So really they need to be spending that. This is an instance where indoor lifestyle is better. Your cat needs to be shielded from diseases, from viruses and bacteria, and they need to be in a situation where they're not with other cats so they don't spread this. This is a wider health implication than just your pet. And often they can live really good lives. Owners do need to be really hot on hygiene and making sure their pet gets all of their preventative care and gets regular checkups.
Okay. And are there any other viruses for cats that we should be hot on topic at the moment?
Yeah, so I mentioned a couple of other things we vaccinate for. So cat flu and cat enteritis. So there's two main viruses that make up cat flu, Kalichi virus and herpes virus, which all the main vaccines your cats get will cover for. But particularly they can be exposed at really early ages before they're vaccinated. My mother-in-law has a cat who the litter all had, I think it was Kalichi virus. So she occasionally gets a bit of a snotty nose, a bit of a runny eye. We have to keep an eye on her when she's like that, and actually she will recover if you keep her in a nice safe space and keep her resting. But that is one to keep an eye on. The other is feline enteritis, which is viral stomach upset. So again, keep your vaccines up to date, prevent much better than curing.
And I saw some cases around cats catching COVID.
Yes.
Have we seen any of that in the UK? I mean, I think when I read about it, I saw it in America, but have we seen it in the UK?
It was a little while ago, so I'm not sure you can quote me completely on this, but I do believe we did have a case in pets diagnosed in a pet in the UK. I can't remember if it was a cat or a dog. Basically, the message was, and still is, pets don't catch COVID on a regular basis. They can catch it. They don't tend to get half as sick as we do. It's a virus, they get a bit fluey, they get a bit quiet, they're off their food, and then they bounce back. And actually, if the main concern is them catching it from us rather than the other way around. So just be careful if you do have COVID, and I believe it's been going around again at the back end of this year, doing a little bit of a wave and making people sick. Don't handle your pets without washing your hands. It's the best advice I can give you. And don't stress about it too much.
Lovely, thank you. Just to kind of start wrapping this up, because it's been an amazing cat episode, and I'm sure we will definitely do more cat dedicated episodes. One of the things I've always wondered about is how on earth do people help keep their cat's teeth in good order?
It's a good question. We struggle with our dogs, and they're a lot more kind of easygoing about it. Right?
Forgiving.
Fingers in there. Cats are not the best. Not for you fiddling around their mouth, putting your fingers in their mouth. What I would say is if you are thinking about getting a cat or a kitten, start early. If you can with your kittens, get them used to being handled around the mouth. Like Matt has said, it doesn't have to be a full kind of mouth kind of teeth brushing. It's just, I'm going to touch you around the face, you get rewarded, and then I'm going to open your mouth. I've been doing this with my cat since day one. Like, he will let me open his mouth and have a full exam. I'm very lucky to have known to have done that.
Yeah.
Can I brush his teeth, though? That's another question. No, not on Earth.
I think that kind of thing is probably as much as you need to do, just to check on tartar levels and then book them in for a dental.
Yeah,
really.
Exactly.
And noticing if they're off their food, have crunchy food. So all those natural things that you can do anyway to reduce plaque buildup or dental disease. But I don't know of many cat owners that would brush their cat's teeth.
No, I mean, it would be the dream if you could, but I think exactly what you say, a balanced diet, some dry food if you can to help crunch the plaque down, and if they will let you examine your teeth so you can see when things start to change, then you can go and talk to your vet.
Yeah, because I don't think I'd be able to hold the toothbrush in my oven mitt as I was attempting something like that.
I'm saying don't do that.
Everybody likes their fingers.
Definitely don't go there. Yeah. Okay, just before we finish up, I'm sure you, both being cat owners, have got some hilarious cat stories. Anything that you want to share?
Oh, gosh.
I think I shared this with you last time I was here, but we had a funny one about it must have been nearly 2 years ago. Wow. Now, I went through a period 2 Christmases ago where I couldn't figure out why my cat food bills were going through the roof. We seemed to be feeding him so much, and yet he wasn't. If anything, he was losing weight rather than gaining weight. We've touched on it earlier. It turned out there were 4 other cats in the area that were coming in, helping themselves, and off they were going. So my cat was sat in the corner going, I'm really stressed about this, and also I'm really hungry. It's amazing what a microchip activated cat flap can do for your life.
Yeah.
Switch that bad boy on, and suddenly he's very happy again. So if something's going on and it doesn't quite marry up, a camera is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Baby monitor video camera.
I love that.
What's actually going on?
What about you, Nat? Anything?
Okay, most recent cat story is I found a cat, lovely little cat, but I was walking on my dogs. So, me being Natty Doolittle, I can't just leave a cat in peril. So put all the dogs in the van. I was like, what can I... She was really friendly, and I gave her some dog treats, but she'd obviously been living rough for a while, and she was so hungry that she bit my finger as well as the treat. Not in a just a overzealous
oh my goodness, I am so starving.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, well, one, that's me getting a new tetanus, and anyway, managed to get her in a little blanket. It was winter and it was raining, so she was really cold and quite still until I got halfway to the vet's, because I obviously had the heated seat on and the heater on to warm her up, and she suddenly came to life slightly. This is not something safe to do. I now carry a little crate with me so that if I do find animals, I can at least contain them.
Yep.
She was very good. She sat on my lap, and we took her to the vet, and she wasn't chipped. So even if her owner was out there, we couldn't find her, unfortunately, and my vet has her. So
happy ending.
It was a nice story. But for a moment, it was very stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I have 4 dogs with me
and a cat
attached to my finger. So after that, I dropped her off and then went to the doctors and got a tetanus.
Yeah, which is a sensible thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
If there's one thing for our listeners to do, that is get your cat microchip.
Yes.
And keep your details on that microchip database up to date.
And
absolutely.
When you go for a checkup, ask your vet to scan your cat to make sure that it's still there and
it's not moved around
exactly.
anywhere.
I mean, it's not the end of the world if it has moved around, but as long as it's scannable, because things do happen. It's not just about getting them chipped. Like Sam says, it's the details. Keep them up to date
and register them with a reputable database as well to make sure that they're there. And if you move, make sure that you update them.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great way to end this episode all about cats. Thank you for everyone bearing with us in our Halloween gear as it's our Halloween special. So Sam, we'll see you again very shortly talking about Healthy Pet. And Nat will be back talking all things behaviour and training.
Yes.
So I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks.
Thank you to all of our listeners. You can find out news about our podcast on our Instagram or TikTok handles, which is at Animal Friends Insurance, or on our Facebook page at Animal Friends Pet Insurance.